Chairman Powell, in your November 5th press conference, you said, the fiscal policy actions that have been taken thus far have made a critical difference to families, businesses, and communities across the country. Even so, the current economic downturn is the most severe in our lifetime. It will take a while to get back to the levels of economic activity and employment that prevailed at the beginning of this year, and it may take continued support from both monetary and fiscal policy to achieve that. Chairman Powell, how long will it take us to get back to pre-COVID levels of economic activity and employment without any further fiscal relief this year from Congress?
It'd be very difficult to say how that would play out in terms of the time. I will say, though, that first of all, the economy has actually performed better than expected. It's been more resilient to spikes in cases than expected. Nonetheless, and we've had a recovery that's been faster than most forecasters have expected so far. Nonetheless, we do have a long way to go. We've got on the order of 10 million people who lost their jobs because of the pandemic. And for reference, that's more than lost their jobs during the global financial crisis in the United States. So it's a lot of people. So there's a long way to go. And I think we can both acknowledge the progress and also and point out just how far we have left to go. And as I said earlier, the lion's share of the credit really should go to fiscal policy. And of course, the timing and the scope and the size and the components of that are entirely up to you. I just point out that we'll use our tools until the danger is well and truly past, and that it may require help from other parts of government as well, including Congress.
Well, thank you, Chairman Powell. Also, in your November 5th press conference, you pointed out to the collective desire to keeping this episode short as it can be and avoiding unnecessary business bankruptcies, unnecessary household bankruptcy, unnecessary long-term phase of unemployment. And there's a real threat of those things, and we're trying to do everything we can to minimize them. We're beginning to see that right now. Several of my colleagues have alluded to the fact that as these eviction and foreclosure moratoriums expire, there could be thousands and thousands of people thrown out of their homes, which will affect, I think, the financial markets. And in that case, it might be good to have a facility backed by the CARES Act. Some of these issues aren't hypothetical. They're not sort of a crisis of the future that we don't see. They're very real. In fact, they're coming unless we take appropriate action. And that would be, I would think, fiscal action. So do you think that these threats are just sort of substantial or they're almost upon us?
So as I mentioned in my testimony, Senator, I think there's a real distinction between the near term and the medium term. In the near term, we see the spread of the disease, and what we're hearing from businesses and we met with a group of community bankers that we regularly meet with a week or so ago. What we're hearing is that there are a lot of small businesses that are at risk of going out of business during this winter, which could be a tough few months. At the same time, though, we're getting this news about the vaccines, which are more effective and they've come sooner. So there really is, in the medium term, upside risk here. And the other thing I'll say is that the fact that the economy was in very good shape at the beginning of the pandemic, that may be one of the reasons why it has recovered faster than we thought and kind of continued to defy expectations of problems. So I do think those are real risks, though. I think the risk of small businesses going out of business, the risk of people at the lower end of the income spectrum, where at the bottom quartile, I think the unemployment rate is still 20%. These are not people with a lot of savings, a lot of resources, or a lot of opportunities right now. And so I think that there are parts of the economy that really will need help, or might need help to get that last span of the bridge in place to get to the other side of the pandemic.
I think one of the points you're making is that the impact of this crisis economically is not shared equally by all Americans. There are groups that are impoverished now and are on the edge of even worse disasters unless we act. And if we don't act, then we will have two separate but unequal groups of Americans, and that's not a recipe for a country that can move forward. Thank you very much.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.